So my name is Caris. I'm an Education Officer here at the British Science Association, and today I'm going to be going through how to get started with CREST, particularly focusing on the CREST Awards for secondary levels. I've also got my colleague Susan here with me. Susan, do you want to do a quick introduction?
Thanks, Caris. Hello, everyone. Yes, I work with Caris in the education team, one of the education managers, and look forward to sharing a bit about CREST with you.
Thank you, Susan. And just to let you know that today's session will be recorded, and this recording and the slides will be shared with you. Please do ask any questions in the chat throughout, and Susan's going to be keeping an eye on that, although we may not get a chance to answer these at the end, but there will also be some time saved at the end for questions. So what are the CREST Awards to start with? So CREST Awards are designed to inspire young people to think and behave like scientists and engineers. The projects are open-ended and student-led, using an inquiry-based learning approach with real-world contexts. They can enhance UCAS applications and CVs, giving young people something to discuss in interviews. They're flexible and accessible, and they recognise the achievement of all learners with certificates. And just at the bottom there is the link to the main CREST Awards website, where all the information about CREST Awards can be found. So CREST projects give you and your students the opportunity to be creative and investigate something that interests them. So for example, some real CREST project questions here, including, can soggy crisps be made crispy again? How does a slinky defy gravity? Can Red Bull really make you fly? To eat or not to eat, the 5-second rule. Does time fly when you're having fun? Is there a science behind baby holding? And we see all sorts of really creative and interesting projects coming from students all the time. So CREST is really flexible, and projects can look into a variety of topics just with a scientific approach. So you can see here the subject areas we have available for CREST. So there's the sort of typical sciences you might be thinking about: biology, chemistry, physics, engineering, but also really any topic on the school curriculum. And we also have an other category, so really any ideas that students would like to investigate. So CREST is split into 6 award levels, 4 of which I'm going to go through today, as these are most suitable for secondary age pupils. So starting with our Discovery Awards, these are typically done by 10 to 14-year-olds, and just say that all the ages here are simply a guideline. You can choose the award level that you think is most suitable. But so for Discovery, that's 10 to 14-year-olds typically. It takes 5 hours to complete, so can be done in one day. It's assessed by you as the teacher before you submit for the award, and it costs £3 per student, although CREST is free for children in Wales as it's fully subsidised by the Welsh Government. There is also funding available for the CREST Awards, which I'll explain in a bit more detail later on. So then we move up to the Bronze Awards. These are typically done by students aged 11 or older. They are 10 hours of work to complete, again assessed by you as the teacher before submitting for the certificates. And for Bronze Awards, you would need to send in as well a sample of 10% of students' work. So that's the work of 10% of your students, not 10% of each student's work. And these cost £6 per student. Then we have the Silver Awards, typically done by students aged 14 or older. These take about 30 hours to complete. These are assessed by the expert CREST assessors. So either you or the student would submit their work through the CREST platform. That is then assessed externally, and then you would find out whether it had met the level needed for the award, and that cost £15 per student. And then finally, the Gold Awards. These are typically done by students aged 16 or older. It's quite a big project requiring 70 hours of work, again assessed by the expert CREST assessors, and these cost £30 per student. So there are sort of different contexts in which you can run CREST Awards. So you can do it during science lessons as part of your curriculum teaching, and that QR code there links to the booklet about investigating practical science in the curriculum. CREST can also be run in a science club or STEM club. This could also be an online science club or as homework. It can be done during British Science Week. So this year's British Science Week will be the 7th to the 16th of March. It can be done during a STEM day or drop-down day, or as an independent project done by the students. So if you're trying to decide between running CREST in the curriculum or as an extracurricular activity, there are some pros and cons for each. So some pros for running CREST in the curriculum. It gives lots of skill and teamwork opportunity for students. It can be fun and impactful. It can be done with a whole class or whole year group or even multiple year groups and can boost science capital. Some cons of running CREST in the curriculum, there is planning involved and you have to plan that around your curriculum teaching. You may need to limit the project themes. We've discussed how it can be very open-ended and flexible, but if it will need to cover curriculum content if you're doing it in curriculum time. There is work involved in doing CREST awards that you would have to fit in around your teaching, and the space to run with a whole class or year group could be challenging. If you were to do CREST as an extracurricular activity, some of the pros is that you could work with smaller groups. If you're doing that with fewer students, that's less admin. It would give you more time supporting individuals and you could do a wider range of projects. Some cons, you might have shorter session times. You may have a limit to the number of these extracurricular sessions you can do within the academic year. Not all students will be able to get involved, and you're going to have to plan those awards across several days or weeks. So the process for doing CREST awards. So step one is to plan how you want to run your awards. And you should be thinking about, who do you want to do the awards? Is there a certain class or year group you think would benefit, or particular students you think would most benefit from doing a CREST award? Then where and when will you be doing them? Is that a STEM club or in lesson time, during British Science Week, or across multiple terms? And also to think about how you'll be covering the CREST award fees. Do you need to get permission for these from somebody? Are you going to be applying for Engage funding, which I'll talk about in more detail soon? Or is there certain equipment that you might need to purchase in order to facilitate the awards? So step two, the resources, you need to choose your activities. So there's lots of free resources available to download from the CREST resource library. Or as we've discussed, you can create your own projects or let your students choose something that interests them. And then finally, get your CREST awards, run the projects with your students, and then apply for certificates online to earn the awards. As I mentioned earlier, for Discovery and Bronze, you could assess your students' work, just uploading that 10% sample for Bronze, whereas for Silver or Gold, you or the student will need to upload each project for the expert CREST assessors who will review them. If the awards are successful, you'll be sent certificates in the post. If not, you'll be sent feedback and given the opportunity to resubmit, and you may also be offered a lower or higher award level. So for example, if you applied for silver and the assessor felt it didn't meet enough criteria for a silver award, you would be sent feedback on how to improve that, but also potentially maybe given the opportunity to instead accept a bronze award. And that would be up to you and the student to decide if you wanted to accept the bronze award or resubmit and try again for the silver award, for example. A few things to consider when you're planning for CREST here. Things like the time you have to do it, what prep you need to do you need certain approvals, do you have the space, the materials and equipment, thinking around other deadlines within the school, so exam times, UCAS deadlines, thinking about things like staffing. Will you need to have an additional member of staff to support you run the awards, or would you need to get cover if you're going to be doing a discovery day, something like that, as well as sort of paperwork and any risk assessments that may be needed. So now I'm going to go through some of the awards in a bit more detail, starting with the Discovery Awards. So in Discovery Awards, so these were the ones that are typically for 10 to 14-year-olds. Students work in teams to learn about a topic, then develop their own idea and present their findings before reflecting on their learning. And within those teams, each student is sort of given a role to do. There's some links here, so you'll get the slides and you'll be able to look at them, thinking about how to get started with a discovery day and how you would maybe make your own discovery project or how you would assess a discovery project. And the assessment objectives for discovery, so the things you're going to be looking for in your students, are self-management, team working, problem solving, research, communication, and reflective practice. So an example discovery project is Machines of the Future. So this is one that you can download for free in our resource library. In Machines of the Future, students learn about AI and machine learning. They think about what tasks would they trust a machine to do and understand how machine learning works. They then work in their groups to design a household product that uses machine learning before presenting their ideas to you and the rest of the class. And as you can see here, when you download those resources, there's a booklet for the teacher explaining everything the teacher needs to know. There's a booklet for the student, which has all the instructions and activities for the student. There's also a presentation that can be given at the beginning of the task. And those students can use a CREST Discovery Passport to sort of track their progress and reflect on their project at the end. And you can then use that to assess their work, then order and award their certificates. So if you're thinking about doing a discovery award, that could be done as a STEM day or 5 individual sessions. So if you're thinking of doing that as a STEM day, it has some benefits, which are continuity and the opportunity to work on a real world issue and have more time to devote for planning and analysis. It also allows a bit more time for that reflective practice on what was done during the day and how successful the challenge was. And when they're reflecting on that, students have only just done everything, so it's fresh in their minds. Some benefits of running instead as 5 individual sessions, perhaps during lessons or in a STEM club. Those sessions are then shorter and maybe easier to engage students' attention. You can still link one session to the next one, and logistically that may be more convenient for you. There are the timings here for doing it as a 1-day project and then as a 5-session project. I'm not going to go through these in detail. This example is for machine learning, again, that Machines of the Future project, and just a quick summary of sort of what's involved in doing that project. So there's a starter, which is that PowerPoint to introduce the topic, some workshops with activities for the students to help them understand the project. Then they get to do their own, that designing the product. There's a research and planning stage, a design stage, and then they present back their product, followed by that time to reflect on their learning and complete their discovery passports. And you can see here, that's the same set of activities, but just split into 5-hour-long sessions instead of 1 day. So now I'm going to go through bronze, silver, and gold awards in a bit more detail. So for bronze, silver, and gold awards, students must meet 11 of the 15 CREST criteria. So those are the criteria shown there on the right-hand side. There is a student profile form that students can use to indicate how they've met those criteria, or for bronze level, there's also a bronze workbook, which is a bit easier to fill in and a bit more guided for sort of younger students. The level, so the criteria remain the same for bronze, silver, and gold, but the level of detail required to meet those criteria differs. And what I've linked here is some guidance for bronze, silver, and gold, and those go through those criteria in a bit more detail, as well as an example of each of sort of how those could be met in a project. There's no set format for CREST projects, but they often fall into one of the following types. So first of all, practical investigations are one of the most common project types for CREST. In these, students aim to answer a question, hypothesis, or problem. For example, which exercises are most effective in maintaining mental health? Then we also have design and make projects. In these, students design and create a product that meets a specific aim. So this could be a physical product or a digital one. Some past topics have included designing and making a skateboard, a model catamaran, or AI glasses. Research projects aim to provide a fresh perspective or strengthen an argument for a disputed STEM topic through data gathering and analysis. So some examples include topics such as genetic and societal factors that contribute towards obesity. then communication projects aim to inform a specific audience about a topic or raise their awareness and interest in STEM. So, for example, students have developed a science show, perhaps building an interactive museum exhibit that explained a scientific principle, a radio show where students interviewed a scientist, or a podcast series on the accuracy of science in films. So you see here there's quite a few different types of projects, and it doesn't have to be submitted as sort of a written report. It can be a written report along with the profile form, but it doesn't have to be. They can sort of submit in any format they'd like. They could send in a video along with that profile form if they wanted to, for example. So if you're thinking about doing sort of a CREST award, but you're not sure what topic to do and how to make it interesting and engaging for the students you work with, one method that can work is to make your own powerful questions. So thinking about what other young people in your class is interested in and using that as a hook, linking into the curriculum content. So if you were going to do this, perhaps you can start thinking about this now. Pick a year group that you think would benefit from more project work. Then you start to think about a list of their interests. What are their interests, particularly outside of school? Then you could choose a curriculum topic that you're due to be teaching them and try and list as much of the curriculum content for that topic as you can. Now, step 5 is to draw lines between the curriculum content and your hook list of your students' interests. And these lines, you don't have to be making connections yet. Those lines could be drawn randomly between those two things. Then look at your lines and see, do any potential questions emerge? Are there any angles you hadn't thought of? And could any of these sort of links or ways of connecting these that you think of be extended into a project? This could also be used if you're letting students pick their own projects to help them come up with ideas for what they could look into. You could ask them to make the list of their interests. You could give them a list of the curriculum content you want them to be covering. You can ask them to draw the lines, make the links, and have a go at thinking up the questions that they might want to investigate. So just some CREST project examples. These all are full case studies that are available on the CREST website, and they're linked here. So first of all, Rugby High School covers some CREST Bronze Awards that were done there. At this school, students chose their projects from the Bronze CREST Award Resource Pack, Disease Development and Diagnostics, which includes projects on periods, HPV and cervical cancer, endometriosis, and global healthcare during pregnancy. Then we also have a case study about George, who attends a special school and designed and built a working automatic biscuit dunker from Lego. This allows you to give the machine exact instructions on just how you would like your biscuit dunked. His project even made him a minor celebrity with an appearance on ITV News. And then finally, we have Richard, who did a CREST Gold Award on finding the link between nutrition and mental health. And in his case study, he talks about how he found doing that award really useful for giving him something to speak about in the interview for his apprenticeship. So what support is available for you if you're thinking of doing CREST Awards? So first of all, support for funding. So currently Engage funding is open for applications until the 4th of February. We offer an Engage grant, so that is £350 of grant money plus a voucher for up to £350 of CREST Awards to cover those CREST Award fees. Or you could also apply for Engage Simply CREST, which is just the voucher to cover up to £350 of CREST Award fees. If you're thinking about applying for Engage funding, I'd recommend coming to the Engage Grants Application Tips webinar, which Susan's going to be running on the 23rd of January. The link for that is in these slides, but it's also on the Engage page of the CREST website. We also have support here from us in the CREST team. So please do get in touch with us at any time. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer them. So that's the email on there, crest@britishscienceassociation.org. We also have the CREST Help Centre, which is linked there. That has lots of articles, answers to sort of common FAQs, those kinds of things. Do take a look at all the free resources available in the CREST resource library linked there. And the picture there just shows some examples of the different Silver project resources. And then there's also video support, a bit like today's session, in a YouTube playlist that is linked there that you may find helpful. Just a few notes on some other support. So you may want to have mentors for students completing CREST projects. So mentors are not a requirement for CREST, but they can be helpful, especially at a silver and gold level. That mentor can really be anybody who has some expertise within the STEM field that student is doing their project on. So that could be you as their teacher potentially, but also that could be somebody from a local university or somebody from the STEM Ambassadors Programme. There's some links there on how you can request a STEM ambassador who can then support your student with their CREST project. And just to note here, if you're thinking you might like to do CREST, but you need to get support from senior leadership within your school, just a few points that you may find helpful to let them know. So CREST can be helpful towards meeting Gatsby benchmarks 4 and 5. It's useful for students' CVs and UCAS applications, although it doesn't count towards UCAS points. It can be used on the applications to showcase their interest in the subject, the skills they've developed, and so on. It gives you something good to showcase for Ofsted. If you would like us to provide some more information for you to pass on to senior leadership, do let us know. We're happy to help you with that. And also you can see there from our CREST Silver Impact Report, which is linked, it was found that doing a CREST Silver Award helped improved grades and science uptake beyond GCSE. And just something else to note, CREST is cross-curricular and doesn't require specialist training, so you can involve staff members from other departments, and it could be a great sort of cross-curricular project to work on. So thanks everyone to listening to me. Now it's your chance to ask any questions. You can put them in the chat, or I'm not sure if you can unmute yourselves, but do try and unmute yourselves if you want to ask a question.
I've just answered a couple of things, Karis, in the chat with links to the session that talks about Simply CREST, which is new this year, and also the session next week for more information about applying for an Engage grant. So that is in the chat if anyone would like that.
Great, thank you, Susan.
Someone's typing, so there may be another question coming in the chat. That is most definitely a whistle-stop tour of CREST. Oh, Gillian has her hand up. Please go ahead and unmute.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to ask, instead of typing in the chat, in terms of, I'm coming from local authority and representing the local authority, is there a way to find out how many schools within my local authority are engaging with CREST and have engaged with CREST in the past?
I think we'd have to look into that, yeah.
Yeah, we'd
if you
have
send
to
us an email.
Super, that would be great. Yeah, that would be great. It would be just to know for from a local authority perspective where there are pockets of people doing CREST within our local authority, because it's quite good then to tell a neighbouring school, well, actually that school down the road has run it before, and it's quite helpful for schools. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. Rebecca.
Hello. I'm in a special school that goes through from year 3 to year 11. And obviously you've shown George winning his award and things and doing his science. And you've said it's cross-curricular, and so no specialist equipment or whatever is necessarily required. And so I presume you're saying that we can do this in an ordinary classroom. You don't need a science lab or anything like that because we don't have those sorts of facilities.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, a science lab wouldn't be necessary. It very much depends on what sort of project you want to be doing, but those projects are so sort of flexible and open-ended that they can be done really on any subject. And I think it would just be for sort of you and your students to decide what it is you want to investigate, and bearing in mind what equipment you have available when you're choosing what to investigate.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Are there different awards available for the primary students? I've booked on the primary session for tomorrow. I'm just trying to establish whether I need to go to that or not.
Yes, we do have Star and Superstar awards.
Oh, fab.
Which is the 2 levels for primary, which will be, yeah, I'll be going through tomorrow.
Fantastic. I'll see you tomorrow then.
We should also say that we can provide some guidance on different ways that young people with additional needs can submit their CREST awards. So CREST did mention that it doesn't have to be a long written report, and we are quite flexible in how they demonstrate their learning. So CREST, you might just want to take down a name and come back with, I think we have a Help Center article that I'm having difficulty accessing at the moment that expands a little bit upon that. And we've also had some sessions in our conference. We have an annual conference in June where other teachers of students, either from special schools or students within a mainstream setting who have additional needs, have done CREST that's been modified to suit their needs more appropriately. Just been a question also in the chat whether or not students have to work through bronze and silver to do gold. And just to reiterate, no, you choose the level that is most appropriate for what you're doing with your students. So there you don't have to have silver to get gold. You don't have to work through them sequentially like that. That yes, yeah. They can go straight to gold. Is it the EPQ, Karis, that's often, if students are doing an EPQ, that's often quite applicable, and they can get a CREST award at the same time or by doing the profile form on top of that.
Yeah, there are a few sort of other programs. EPQ is one of the bigger ones that if you're doing an EPQ or a similar program with students where they've done a close sort of similar to that 70 hours of work on a project, that can then be sort of converted into a CREST award. It sometimes requires a little bit of editing or providing some additional documentation. So particularly thinking about the CREST criteria. If I go back, where did I put the CREST criteria? But a lot of it are sort of about the students' process and their planning and their reflections. And sometimes that can be missing from some of those other sort of projects. So it can just be the case of providing that profile form with that additional information, or even potentially another document, so their EPQ and another document that says this was my sort of planning information, just to make sure it covers all those CREST criteria.
And there's a question in the chat, Karis, about Young STEM Leader in Scotland, which is a program. I don't know it personally, so I'm just having a bit of a scan at the moment. But basically, if it's any sort of project that can be applied to the CREST criteria, then whatever they're doing for the other scheme, as long as they're also reporting back and demonstrating the CREST criteria, it can be applicable to that.
I would have to double check that one. Just let people know. Unfortunately, our colleague, who is the real CREST expert, was unable to make it today. So we may have to take some of your questions away and come back to you. And then I've just seen another question. So do CREST awards have any value in UCAS? So they don't count towards UCAS points, but it is something that students can write about and show and give an example of how they've demonstrated those skills in their UCAS application, and also in university interviews. And if anyone has questions they think of later, do just send us an email. We'll be happy to answer them.
We will hold on to those that are still typing in the chat.
Yes, but thank you everyone for coming. We'll still be here for a few minutes in case anyone thinks of another question. But hopefully that was helpful, and you'll all get the recording and the slides.